Hi, I'm Bryan Welch. I'm the publisher of Mother Earth News, and this morning I'm sitting with Ed Begley Jr., and we're talking about the ways that we take steps in our own lives to make the world a better place and a more beautiful and abundant place for future generations. Thanks so much for being here, Ed.
Thank you for having me, Bryan.
So I thought it'd be interesting to hear, after something like 40 years of personal activism and deep engagement in your personal lifestyle, what's your enthusiasm level these days for conservation and sustainability? And I mean, I've known you for about a decade. You've been going night and day ever since I first met you. Does it ever wear thin?
No, I'm still very much engaged. I've been doing it, like I suspect you have, for 43 years since the first Earth Day, and that got me motivated, and I stayed with it because it worked. It was something that I could see results from, not just in an environmental sense, but in a financial sense. It made my life more financially sound, all the things I did. They were all long-term goals. Some of them were relatively short-term, but others, paid off in the long run. And it's a good way to live in every sense.
That's interesting you say that, because you always have been one of those, you've always had an opinion on frugality. It's always been one of the things you advocated, hasn't it? And how does that dovetail with sustainability in your life?
Well, it's really the same thing. Well, first of all, I think, as Bobby Kennedy Jr., my friend, he says, the economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the environment, not the other way around. And I think that's true. If you have a healthy environment, you'll have a healthy economy. He says, show me pollution, I'll show you waste, and monetary waste as well as, environmental waste. And I think that's true. If you live an environmentally sound wife, it is my environmentally sound wife. Interesting.
Yes, you have one of those
I can't
too.
get away from her.
Yeah.
And thank God I can't. She's great. She and I realize that if you live an environmentally sound life, you will have a sound life economically. If you do it in the right order, you can't go broke in 1970 buying super expensive solar panels. I didn't do that. I didn't even consider doing that.
Yeah.
I did things that were cheap and easy first. And if you do that, they really go hand in hand. I learned a lot of it from my dad, who was a conservative that liked to conserve. It seems to be a rarity these days, a conservative to conserve.
Right.
And kind of a Teddy Roosevelt kind of a conservative. And he lived through the Great Depression. He was the son of Irish immigrants, and so I'm the grandson of Irish immigrants.
Yeah.
And I know that that's a good way to live. The indigenous peoples live that way and still do. They would live off the interest of the land and not liquidate their principle the way some very rare indigenous tribes did, like on Easter Island. That's why they're not there anymore.
Right.
They liquidated their principle, and they perished. So we've, I hope, learned from those mistakes and many other civilizations that have done that. Jared Diamond wrote a great book about it called Collapse, where different civilizations have collapsed because they behaved in a fiscally and environmentally unsound manner.
Yeah. You have a new show.
Yeah.
On Begley Street.
Right.
Just started airing.
Yep.
Tell us about it. I haven't seen it.
It's a new show that just launched a few days ago, Bryan, a week ago right now, actually. It's called On Begley Street, and it's a show with my wife and I showing what we're up to now. We're building a LEED Platinum home. It shows us recycling an existing home on site, not the home I'm living in now. That home is a pretty sound environmental home that was built in 1936 and was very non-green, but I made it pretty green, so I'll either keep that and rent it or I'll sell it. And that home is going to be fine for somebody for many more decades. But I wanted to show what you could do with new construction, and so we're building from the ground up a LEED Platinum home, and it's a lot about that. Then we'll go elsewhere too and look at other technologies and other people's homes and help green people up, and it'll be about a lot of things environmental. But it's on Evox, E-V-O-X television. Mm-hmm. Evox Television has it on their lineup, and it's pretty good.
And if you search it, can you watch it online?
Yes, you can watch it online. That's really the only place to watch it. I think it's part of a channel on Samsung or on Roku or something, but it really is a web show.
Sure.
That's where it is. And if you search On Begley Street, you'll find it.
What's the coolest stuff in the new house? Do you feel like talking about how you're doing that?
I do. Excuse me. I do. I'm happiest with something that's kind of cutting edge today, but I don't think it's going to be cutting edge in a few years. I think it'll be more commonplace. I have a very large rainwater tank buried underground. In the Southwest, I think you're going to see more of that.
Yeah.
Now it's like, what are you doing that for? I thought you had those little rain barrels under your downspout. Been there, done that. That's good. I'm glad I did that. That was appropriate in the 90s or the 80s whenever I put the ones in. I put those in the 80s in my current home. I've been using rainwater catchment for many years, but this is a 2013 large tank, 10,000 gallons, so I'll store a lot of rainwater, which we're going to have to do in the Southwest. Because the only reason LA has the kind of functioning water system that we have now, it's functioning because we got our straw dipped in somebody else's drink in the Colorado River, the Owens Valley, and the San Francisco Bay Delta. And so that's where we're getting our water from. It's not coming from groundwater in LA. So we need to recharge our aquifers in LA. We need to capture that rainwater, in cisterns and tanks and use it. We could get more than half the water that we need in LA if we just captured our rainwater. More than half.
Seriously, more than half?
More than half.
You don't think of it as raining that much in LA, but on an annual basis, it's enough to do that.
Yeah, that's during a normal year. In a drought year, you could still get a tremendous amount. And all the more reason in a drought year, you're going to get 7 or 8 inches of water.
Right.
That's the least it's going to be. I think it's 15, 16 inches of water in a good year. And you need to capture it, whatever it is, and use that for irrigation. You can't use it to drink. You could if you filtered it and purified it, but the city just wants to use it for irrigation, which is a fine use for it. When you're growing fruit trees, as I am, you have fruit trees and a vegetable garden, and it's perfect for that.
Did you find a property that already had fruit trees on it, or are you starting over with the fruit trees?
I'm starting from scratch. We thought we could use part of the existing home. That was the goal, to use part of that home and use all 4 walls. And we thought, well, 3 walls, well, the 1 wall, and there was so much termite damage, water damage, and foundation damage, we quickly surmised we would have to also go up to a 2nd story, and that foundation couldn't sustain 2 stories. So we had to take it down to nothing, because I have the same predicament in the new house that I have in my current house. There's shading to the south. And to get up out of the shade of the oak tree, and you certainly don't want to mess with an oak tree for a second and start pruning that improperly or at all. So we had to get the house and the 10 kilowatts of solar up out of the shade of the oak tree, and that required a 2nd story, so we had to start from scratch.
That rainfall, just going back for a minute, that rainfall that could supply half of the water that Los Angeles consumes, that rainfall right now is just running down the
concrete channel out to the ocean.
Concrete channel to the
Very
ocean.
little of it is a recharge going. There's so much paved area. Everything is asphalt and concrete, and it should be. The new code is for permeable, of course. It's been that way for a while, and that's the way it should be. So it recharges the aquifer. There are existing aquifers in LA that are working, but we've neglected them, and we've forgotten that they're there in many cases. Most of it goes out in what's called the LA River, the storm drain system. The Army Corps of Engineers, with the best of intentions years ago, when people were dying and houses were washing away in the 1930s, they thought, well, we'll fix this with a lot of concrete, and now we know better. It should be more like Scottsdale, Arizona kind of paradigm of what they're doing a bit in LA in the Balboa Park area, the spreading basin there, where the water is allowed to spread out when there's a big rainy period over a large area that's soccer fields and other, large, areas. And then, a toddler couldn't be, washed away in the torrent of rain, because it's a gentle, large area. With the LA River the way it is, if you're a swiftwater rescue, Navy SEAL, you could perish in that LA River, because it's just a relatively small area, maybe as big as this room, as wide as this room, where all the water in LA is going through it. And people sometimes in their foolishness decide to put a kayak in, and they're going to ride right out to the ocean, and then they need to be rescued by fire department people that are trying to get a line down to them from a bridge. Or people sometimes are playing near it or fall off or jump in, and they almost always perish, sadly, because it's just too swift water for anybody. Even an Olympic swimmer can't get out of that mess.
Anything else about the new house that's particularly interesting?
We have 10 kilowatts of solar. We have the rainwater tank, as I said, 10,000 gallons. We have gray water as well to collect that water. So if it's a low, year for rain, we're certainly going to get some more water to feed the trees from the gray water and to feed a few other things. We have passive solar design, which is very important. You know, to the south we have these overhangs or what have you that keep the sun off the glass. You know, the summertime, deciduous trees to the south that also keep it shaded on that area of the house where all the glass is. And then, of course, wintertime, when you want that heat, the leaves fall off the trees, and you go past, you know, that point sometime around the fall, where it starts to hit the glass and you start to warm up the house the way you want it in the wintertime. And big, thick walls, 12-inch thick. We decided to build a house out of steel.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
many
steel framed.
Yeah, we're doing steel framing. It's 65% or higher post-consumer recycled content. Steel is one of the most recycled and recyclable materials out there. And so we're doing that. The fire marshal will love us. The termite treatment people will hate us because they won't have any work. And the mold is a lot harder in that kind of scenario too, as you know.
Harder to start, you mean? You don't
Exactly.
Get it as much,
you don't get it. You can get it in other materials, but you're certainly not going to get it as you can get it in wood.
Right.
You know, it kind of can feed on that. You know, it's not going to attach as easily to the, it'll attach to the drywall if you have a flood or something, but it won't attach to the metal. So we have that. We have lots of other smart, you know, electronics, Lutron kind of switching devices, and, you know, smart controls for the lighting and what have you. And besides it being metal and being very thick walls, there's a thermal break in them. Because a spoon, as you know, if you put a metal spoon into a hot cup of coffee, it'll be hot at the tip, you know, because that metal really conducts heat. So that's a challenge with building out of steel.
I hadn't thought of it.
Yeah, so you build most of the thickness of the wall like this, then you have a thermal break, then you have an interior wall. And so
you have like a steel stud and a steel stud and something between them.
Exactly,
that you can
some
insulate.
insulation between, and so it's all sturdy, and so then you can't get that heat transfer from metal to metal.
Right.
It's very smart the way they do it. And it's really going to be very nice. You know, trees can be renewable. If we only did it that way, we sadly do it very, very rarely do we grow our trees sustainably. I wish we did it better, but we're losing so many of our forests. I made that decision to build it out of metal. What else? Solar hot water.
Yeah.
And as I said, solar electric, but 10 kilowatts of solar, Panasonic solar. They make wonderful solar panels, so that'll be very nice. A.O. Smith equipment, not only for the solar hot water, but for the booster, for the, you know, if it's cloudy for a few days, you still want hot water for a shower or for laundry or something, and so you have a booster there by A.O. Smith that'll give you hot water even if the sun isn't shining.
Yeah, an on-demand system.
Demand can be very good, but if you live alone, if you have a cabin, demand is the most efficient. But if you have 3 or more people, a 86% thermal efficiency A.O. Smith water heater is very, very good.
So this is a water, I don't know A.O. Smith, but it stores hot water.
It stores hot water. It's
cool.
An actual storage one,
Gotcha.
but it has a tremendous amount of efficiency. You know, for a tank heater, it actually will rival some demand heaters given this application.
I have a similar system at my house, and as long as there's been enough sun and we haven't used too much hot water, the solar hot water fills up the tank. But if we run short, there's a source of propane, and if the temperature drops below a certain level, it can catch up with
That's
the
what
propane.
this one does, you know. And I've had very hot water from the sun in the middle of winter at my current home. You know, I've got a hot water system there, and so that natural gas booster does not come on, but if you need it, it's there.
Yeah.
And you know, you don't want the wife or my daughter complaining because there's no hot water because of my wacky solar thing. So you've always got it for them.
You got to keep the family happy.
You got to keep the family happy, Brian.
You assembled a tremendous amount of knowledge in your new book, Ed Begley's Guide to Sustainability. Is that
correct? Very good.
And how did that project evolve? Did you just launch that and pull out? I know you're kind of a wonk. I mean, you get into the details, you get into the knowledge.
I've been involved in this stuff since 1970, but I got to credit this guy, Greg Glass, at this company, BCII. They were the company that did the show Living with Ed.
Yeah.
And he said, you should write a book. And so I wrote the first one with his help. He kind of just had a tape recorder there, made it easy on me.
The first one was Living with, it was...
Living Like Ed, that was the first one.
Right, yeah.
And he narrated the second one. he did most of the heavy lifting, to be honest. It was a lot of stuff I had talked about, but he assembled all the facts and got the diagrams together.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of help. And
it's a really useful book. It's a book that a person trying to live a more sustainable lifestyle is just, it's like a reference work. You can go to different sections when you have different opportunities, and a ton of actual knowledge in it. I think it's a great book.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're kind of in the same business, aren't we? We're in the business of giving people resources.
Right. You've
that
been
they
doing it a long
want.
And you also live with it. That's what's important. You know, you're not just talking about it in a book or a magazine. You live with that kind of system every day. You have, what, 13 kilowatts of solar. You know, you have your own functioning water system. You have, you know, you're getting a lot of your food on site, and you know, that's the way people have lived for thousands of years. We need to return to that, I think, and be more sustainable.
I'm interested in how much of that is part of our motivation. I mean, it sounds like a demonstration of something we believe philosophically, but I find in my own sort of daily energy level that the fact that I'm doing things in my own life, that when I turn on the hot water, I know that we heated it with the sun. The fact that if I switch a light switch on and I know that the sun is creating that electricity, it's deeply satisfying in a way on a personal level,
Yes.
which keeps me interested in sustainability. So rather than an intellectual interest in sustainability being the reason for my solar electric system, in a way, the opportunity to do something on a personal level keeps my energy level up, keeps me excited about sustainability. Do you find the same thing?
I did. It's a very visceral response I had, as most people do. They know it's right. Deep down, they know it's better to live that way, because the other just feels wrong, to be wasteful or to live so disconnected. Most homes are like an unfortunate, very sick patient in ICU, like a patient on life support. Yeah. Everything's coming from outside. There's an IV in here, there's a nasal cannula here, everything, you know, the natural gas line is coming in here that you must rely on. You can't survive without it. You can't get by without the, you know, the electric line coming in here, you know, and the water line over there. You've got all these different lines. The person is not a vibrant, thriving, wait, take these out. I don't need these. I'm alive and healthy. And you're breathing the air in yourself, and you're getting your own nutrition from eating food. And you know, it's the way it was meant to be. And that's why we sit here today in this room, because people for thousands of years that came before us lived sustainably. Yeah. And the only reason we're in big danger now, I think, is because people are not living that way. They're, you know, liquidating the principle and not just living off the interest of the land. You can't liquidate all your capital.
Well, we sort of forgot about health as a value during the Industrial Revolution in a way, didn't we? We sort of forgot about how fundamental a healthy planet and a healthy person, a healthy home, all are to our quality of life, it seems like, you know, for a period of time.
We did things because we could do them. We went, well, I can do this. I own this property. It's certainly your right to do it. I'm going to take down all that agricultural land. I just bought it from that guy, and I'm going to put up a strip mall, and I'm going to put up, you know, an outlet store. You know, and you can do that. It's your right to do that. But ultimately, I don't think you can eat a Prada bag. Right. You know, you can't eat, you know, at some point you got to get the food from somewhere. And so we've had, you know, situations in Ventura County, very near LA County, abutting it. They had a thing, SOAR, S-O-A-R, Save Our Agricultural Resources. It was a measure to, you know, try to keep some of this agricultural land. It's part of what's great about Ventura County. Yeah. And people can still do what they want with their land, but we want to hang on to a certain amount of agriculture. And I think that's very important, because we got to eat.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. That's fundamental. What else is exciting in your life now? What do you enjoy talking about these days? I mean, the new house is obviously a big deal. The new television series is obviously a big deal. What else is going on?
I've been working a lot as an actor. I did a wonderful series for HBO with Christopher Guest, an improv show called Family Tree. That was a lot of fun, and
I heard it's great.
It was great, really fun to do and fun to watch. And then I have another HBO show that launches October 5th, and that's called Muhammad Ali's Greatest Fight. That's about Muhammad Ali's Supreme Court battle. Yeah. He had a case that went all the way to the Supreme Court. And then I also have
about conscientious objection.
Exactly. Yeah. He was a CO, and he was a Muslim, and he didn't want to serve in Vietnam because of that. And so it's about that case. I also have a show on Amazon called Betas, and that's a very funny show, a comedy drama show that's very well done, and that'll be launching very soon on Amazon. One of those streaming shows, like the Netflix shows, like Kevin Spacey's Wonderful House of Cards, or Arrested Development, which I'm fortunate enough to be into. That's on Netflix. This will be a show like that on Amazon.
Arrested Development was hugely successful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Really
That's
well.
a great show. Mitch Hurwitz is a genius, and I think they're going to do another season of it now on Netflix.
Cool. You're going to be in that season?
If they want me, I'll be there. I'll be there as a fan, but if they want me to be on set, I'll do craft service on the stage if they want, whatever.
Who do you play in the Muhammad Ali piece?
I play Harry Blackman. He's a Supreme Court justice.
Sure. Yeah.
And they've got Frank Langella, Danny Glover is in it, Christopher Plummer. We've got a great cast.
It's a great cast, and is it great for you because you're like the youngest guy on the set?
Yeah, suddenly usually the oldest guy on the set. In the show Betas, I'm the oldest. Now I'm one of the younger guys on the set.
Yeah, yeah.
Barry Levinson is in it. It's really good. I can't wait to see it. It'll come on October 5th.
Cool. I just want to say, you know, I've known you for about a decade, and not only has your energy level been 100% on sustainability that whole time, but you're just always such a pleasure to be around. Not everybody carries themselves with the kind of consideration and the love that you project, and I really appreciate that. I think it makes us all feel good about our commitment to have a person who has so many options in life, following up on his commitment the way you do. So thanks a lot, and thanks a lot for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you for talking to me. It's always a pleasure to talk with you because you do the same.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time, and we'll talk to somebody else very soon.